Outer Orange.
Hi and welcome. Do you ever just want a hot, juicy, sexy man in your life? A husbando that you've just been dreaming of? Well, today is the day for you. Whew. I'm gonna need some water after that one. Welcome back to yet another deck profile. That's right, we are going over the Zorga, Mr. Amazing. This is the new festival collection stuff. We have a new Zorga that come out, and I'm going to be showing you guys a profile that's revolving the new Zorga. But before that, let's go ahead and talk about the sleeves and all that fun stuff. So let's get to it. So I'm using blackout sleeves this time for the Rye deck, and I'm also using a Bermuda sleeves for the actual deck here in purple, because I don't know why I just picked purple. And I'm using the Dank Ritual box this time to have my main decks in here. So Zorga's in here, my V Premium is in here. Zorga Ride line, I still think we can probably start here first. This is the Roroa. I'm just using any starter for this. It does not matter what starter you use for this particular deck. In other decks this does matter, because specifically the token deck does require you to have this as a starter. This is not one of those decks, don't worry about it, because yeah, we got that boy, we got the Ranker Chain today. So Ranker Chain is still an amazing card. I think in specifically this type of Zorga, this is Great Eagle Zorga, or as everyone likes to call Red Zorga, I think you really need to prioritize this ride line over the other one, as you need to draw into at least one order and see Dog Shadow Cloak as soon as possible. So it's probably recommended to go this ride line. So last, draw 2 cards and discard an order. If you don't discard an order, you have to discard 2 cards. Essentially this lets you dig through your deck faster, and then you kind of just do your thing. Very good card. Along with him we have Husk, which says on one place on Vanguard you can choose one normal order, bring back to hand. So if you fish something for this, you can then get back to hand. This is a very good combination, as this lets you pretty much not minus as hard. It just makes you go through your deck a little bit faster, and then you can actually use your orders on turn 2. So it's just very solid stuff. And last but not least, we have the new Zorga. This is Dead Sea Spiritualist, Grave Equals Zorga. Very odd name. So this is not the blue Zorga that we're used to. This is now a red Zorga, and I can't wait to SP out this one. I literally just got these cards like literally an hour ago, so obviously I don't have them SP'd out yet, but don't worry, he will definitely be SP'd out as the rest is, so he'll definitely be joining the squad momentarily. Before I officially go into further detail, I want to thank Wolfrengo for he's been testing Zorga, like Grave Eagle Zorga, a lot, and I've got a lot of my inspirations through him. Actually, I would say this deck specifically is probably pretty close to what he is currently testing. I will probably make some changes over time as I keep testing it more and more. I'm kind of starting here, and then I'm just going to kind of evolve it into kind of like my own play style. But I do think this deck is a good start and probably a good place for every Zorga player out there. So I highly recommend going with this deck and kind of rolling with it and kind of seeing where you want to start making changes. Grave Equals Zorga, there he is. It says if you did Alchemagic this turn, all your front minions get 5k. It's just a continuous skill that you just get. Very good, solid start. And then we have a second skill, which is once per turn, you can Soul Blast, discard a card from your hand, choose a normal order from your draw, put it into your hand until end of turn. When you would play in a normal order, you can bind a normal order with a different card name from your draw and Alchemagic. So pretty much what this is saying is that when you do the second part of skill, you have to do it if you want the Alchemagic part. When you do the skill, you can pretty much Alchemagic. And what is Alchemagic? It's when you take 2 orders, one from drop, one from hand. For her, the hand one takes priority, hand and drop pretty much, and you combine them and you pretty much have 1 order, but you're essentially playing 2. And this is very important, especially in this deck. This deck pretty much literally is telling you that you will never miss Alchemagic. The biggest downside to the blue Zorga is that you always miss Alchemagic, or you have a higher chance of missing Alchemagic because you literally have to hard draw into at least a 1 order every single turn. So every single turn you're on Zorga, you have to have an order in hand, where this one says you can discard a card and take an order from the drop zone back to hand, which means you will literally almost never miss Alchemagic. The only way you can miss Alchemagic is if you don't start with orders to begin with, but we try to avoid that, right? So we try to avoid that part. So yeah, that's that. So this is the ride line. This is what we're rolling with. I'm going to talk about the normal units first, and then I'm going to go into the orders, and then I'll go into triggers after that. So I want to continue our sexy boy. So here he is. 3 more of these Zorga. So this is Persona. It's a Persona driven deck. You definitely want Persona. Persona is still insanely important, and this deck, especially if you hit Persona, I feel like it just makes it easier to win the game faster, as your dragons just get bigger and bigger. And speaking of the dragons, here they are. Here are the lovely boys. We run on 4 dragons. I think this deck you can easily get away with running 4 dragons. I think it's actually almost mandatory to run 4 dragons in this deck, especially. The dragons pretty much say when you play an order, he pretty much comes out after the order is complete. And when you play an order, you can choose to give 10k to him, or you can give a crit to him. If you were to Alchemagic, you get both skills, so he becomes a 15k beater with the crit on him. It sounds kind of rough, but the good part about these is that every single time you play an order, these instantly come out from your drop zone. So essentially what happens happens. If you have one, two, three, four of these, however many you want, you can call them all out, activate all their skills, and they just get beefy and stuff like that. And then with the new Zorga, they get even higher in buffs. And then we actually have a new order coming that's already out, like it's in this deck, right? That also buffs up your dragons and your Vanguard even higher. So long story short, these dragons actually become 25k beaters, and then their persona become 35k beaters with a crit on them. So these get very big. You want to see these ASAP. So you want to make sure you hard mulligan for these. You want these in orders is the biggest things you want to go for, and then after that you can go for, you know, persona and all the other stuff, but you definitely want to see these as soon as possible. So our grade 2s are a lot smaller, a lot simpler. It's just Shadow Cloak. For Shadow Cloak is still very important. When placed from your hand, you can get any order that's not in your drop zone, pretty much mull it out. Very important. The second skill is still very important too. The Soul Blast just straight gives you 5k, and then if you're under Alchemy Magic, you can bounce a card back to hand. It's a little hard to use in this deck because the Zorga itself Soul Blast, so you have to be kind of cautious with how often you use this, but it's still just a very good skill, just a very good way to kind of push your opponent. You can get stuff back to hand, like refund some costs, you know, do whatever. There's some situations where your board gets a little too full, so you can actually just bounce stuff back with this and just kind of help your hand out a little bit, and then these come out and it just makes it really easy. I am running 4 nullifiers this time. I've been the queen of running 3 nullifiers in Zorga for like a hot 3 months now, maybe even longer. I think it's been like 4 or 5 months pretty much since set 4. I think I've been running 3 for a hot minute because set 4 Zorga was extremely packed with stuff you can run, and it was kind of hard to find room for everything. So instead of coming back on personas, I got back on PGs. So I am keeping it at 4 now. There might be a high chance that this might change. Might not, I don't know. For Rogue Headhunters deck particularly, seeing the Rogue Headhunters as soon as possible is really good because it makes the dragons bigger. As I mentioned, the 25 on their own on pretty much red Zorga, but then on behind a 13k booster, they become 38, and then persona in total everything becomes 48. And also the minusing the CB is extremely important, as this deck counterblasts a lot more. Since your Zorga Soul Blast, you want to focus on counterblast type orders a little bit more. So particularly in this deck, I actually run the full 4. Skill is very simple. If you play an order, he gets 5k, so he becomes 13k beater. As our skill says, when placed, if you were to Alchemy Magic, you pretty much go down to Counterblast, and this does stack. It does stack if you call 2 of these, but it is like a once type of thing. So like, it's not like Hendrina where you lose like all the costs, you just lose 1. You just go down 1 Counterblast you don't have to worry about, which is, like I said, really important in this deck. You do want to make sure you get to these. They're very, 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 very important. Last but not least, I read Sticky. I call him Sticky. Full name is Adhesive Thread Monster Acti Sticky or something. I just call him Sticky for short. This is one of the newer cards that we got recently. Let me show you guys what he looks like. This is from set 5 specifically, so this is a little bit of a newer card. It just recently came out. I highly recommend picking these up. Counterblast, retire 2 rear guards, draw a card. This unit gets 5k till end of turn. Retire 2 rear guards, you retire your dragons and you draw a card and you get 5k. Why is this important? This is really important in Blue Zorga because you want to hit your orders as soon as possible. This is important in this deck too because you want to retire these as soon as possible. The extra 5k is really important, and the draw could be very important too. It is straight up a free draw, and in this deck, retiring doesn't matter because everything's just going to revive itself anyway. So you're not really minusing. You're not minusing at all because everything's going to come back. You want to retire your dragons. You want to wait to retire your dragons, so you want to run this card. I run it at 2 right now. I might bump it up to 3. I might do like a 50-50 split. This is very counterblast heavy, so I try to be careful with where I want to use this. And that's why I'm only running 2 right now. But I do think this card is very versatile and just very useful. And that draw can literally save you the game, as you can draw into a piece you need, and voila, you're like ready to go. So first with our orders, we're gonna run 4 of the new order. This is Clouded Miasma, I believe it's called, is the proper name. So play with the Counterblast, choose a grade 3 or less from your drop, call it to rear. If it's part of Alchemy Magic, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets all of your front row units get 5k till end of turn. Continuous, it pretty much gets literally the same skill that Zorga himself has. So essentially you have like 10k front row or pretty much all the time, and you're noticing I'm running 4 of them. This card is just so freaking good. First of all, it revives whatever. Like, that isn't a grade 4. So essentially what happens is that whatever you revive, you'll probably just use the dog to then Soul Blast and bounce it back to hand because the dragons will be coming out anyway. But the nice part about it is you can also revive grade 1s with it. You can revive like perfect guards and bounce it back to hand. You can pretty much revive whatever you want, and it's just really nice. And then the 5k to the front is actually extremely important. So you really, really want to utilize this. This is you can't run, by the way, in specifically this deck, you can't run GDR, Grief, Despair, Rejection. That card specifically states you have to be on the blue Zorga, so it has to be, it actually states the exact name. It doesn't just say Zorga. So that one, so you can't run GDR, but this is a really good replacement for GDR. Our main boy, this is like the main order you kind of always want to Alchemy Magic into, like every single turn, non-stop. You want to keep hitting this as hard as possible because it'll synergize with this really well, and you'll constantly have a 10k front. 1, Tearful Malice. Tearful Malice is still an amazing card. In case you miss Sticky, this is another good alternative. It kind of charges for you, it draws you a card, it puts itself into soul, and you retire 2 rear guards. But again, you can just retire the dragons and you'll just get it all back because they literally just come back out. So this is literally free, and like, it's just, the counter charge is really important. Like I said, this deck does counterblast a lot. I've actually been thinking if I want to bump this up to 2 or not fully sure yet, but kind of debating on that. I run 2 of the triple drive orders. This card literally says play this by discarding an order, and you give your Vanguard an extra drive. So on turn 2 you get a twin drive, on turn 3 you get triple drive. So this is just really nice because then you can push your opponent. You have the dragons out, you have all this stuff, you can just kind of push for game. You do have to discard an order for it, so you have to set, this is probably the hardest thing to set up, and you have to really prepare how you want to set this up. So just a caution, you do have to discard an order. So if you say use this skill, make sure you discard something else, like say don't discard an order, discard something else, and then pick this back up, and if you have another order in hand you can instantly just activate it. But be very careful. There's a reason actually why I run some other cards. It's because of this card. This card is very conditional, and if you can't meet the condition, you literally can't alchemy magic. Like sometimes you'll be in a situation where you just have this and this, but you won't have another order in hand, and then you're stuck. So you have to be very careful to not put yourself in that situation. So be very careful how you're utilizing the triple drive. Run 1 Magnolia order. So this is in search of the ideal far away. Now I will say this card will probably change. So if you attack twice, whatever unit gave to gets additional 10k. I'm debating on running Nectar instead of this card. I'm kind of running this as an early push, like a grade 1 push that I can just play and then go into these. Now you might be wondering why in the world am I running this card to begin with. Deck uses resources really fast and really quickly. You need some cards that straight up don't have any costs on them, and this is just one of them. Like these are kind of your costless cards right here, and you want to have costless cards, and the reason being if you don't have costless cards, sometimes you'll be in a situation where you won't have the counterblast, or you won't have the, or you can't mill, or you can't do something, or something screws you over, you're short a resource or whatever, and you're stuck. But when you see cards like these, you won't be stuck. Essentially you'll be able to alchemy magic freely and kind of have a party and just do whatever you want to do. So I run cards like this. I also run Wild Intelligence. I run 1 copy. I was actually running it at 2, and then I realized that at 2 it's really scary because in case you're getting close to deck out and this is the only order you have that you can alchemy magic with, and you don't have the triple drive because you don't have any other order in hand, you will literally deck yourself out. So I just run it at 1. Again, it's just a clutch early aggression type of card. A counterblast, mill 3, call 1. Very easy card. This is a really good way to unbrick yourself. Like I've been running this card pretty much since set 2 because this is the best unbricker. I run 9 orders total. I originally think I had 8 and maybe even had 7. I bumped it back up to 9 just because I do think early aggression is important, and finding a way to have early aggression without cluttering your deck too much is just really versatile. So I'm running currently something like this and kind of see how it works. I think getting dragons out as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, will literally win you the game. And OT, because OT is super important. I'm running 4 of the crits with the soul skills. This is the first time I think I've ever had a profile where I'm actually running these at max copies, because this deck actually soul blasts quite a lot. So this is actually a very useful card to have into prison matchups and all that stuff. So this is just some generic 5k triggers for crits. So running 8 crits total. After that we are running my draw, and actually I didn't realize one of these isn't a speed, but it's okay. So I'm running 3 draws. This is the 4k draws that have the extra shield on them on the actual thing. So if your opponent's grade 3 or grade 2, or if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you get an additional 5k shield. Pretty nice. You can slot this out for fronts, but I think the draws kind of work really well too. Up to you. Depends on how you feel. And last but not least, of course, you want to run heals. So there's the heals, and that's pretty much the whole deck. That's literally everything. Really isn't too much to this deck. This deck is a lot simpler, and I mean a lot simpler than the old Zorga. You will notice that if you are someone that's new to the game, that's coming into the game, if you want to try this deck out, this deck will not be anywhere near as complicated as Blue Zorga is. There's just a lot less room to, or a lot less reason to toolbox and do like weird stuff, mainly because you don't have a straight revive on your grade 3 turn anymore. So because that's gone, you really don't need to rely on it or need to think about that. So because of that, I think this deck is simpler, and because you have access to alchemy magic pretty much every single turn with the soul blast, you don't really have to sit here and go, oh no, what am I going to do? I don't have alchemy magic. Well, you're always going to have alchemy magic unless you play against prison, and you might have a little bit of a resource issue, right? So you gotta be careful there. But because you're not going to have that problem as much, you don't really have to worry about building your deck around a certain way to see your orders. You also don't have to run as much orders as you normally would because of that as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helps you in your journeys. If you're a Zorga player or a part of Zorga cult, you know, let me know in the comments below kind of what you've been experimenting, what you've been testing, what you've been playing. I absolutely love this deck. It's simpler, but sometimes simple is good. It's nice to take a break from having to destroy your brain every round. And that, guys, thank you for watching as always. Peace out. Das Vidania. I'll see you guys next time, and bye. Congratulations! I see you made it to the end of the video. I got some credits right here for my beautiful peels. And don't forget to subscribe. Shop at 50cards.shop. Yeah, that's right. Do it right now. And don't forget to use my code ORANGE. That's right. 50cards.shop. Get to subscribe. 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 Ooh, did you hear me? Did you hear me say? I'll only say it again. Subscribe. subscribe, subscribe.